I am pleased and honored to have Senator Bill Hagerty on with us in our final day during the Libertarian Lunch to talk about the goings-on of Washington, D.C. It's always a good conversation with Senator Bill Hagerty. Hello, Senator. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Matt. It's always good to be with you.
Well, obviously a lot to discuss, not the least of which the drone mystery. I mean, I heard Donald Trump down in Mar-a-Lago yesterday. Thankfully, we have a president-elect that is willing to speak directly to the American people and answer some of these very serious questions with more clarity than anyone from the Biden administration, as he says, look, the government knows what's going on. They're just not telling us what's going on. I know that you probably heard, well, I don't know. I won't assume, but I will give some assumption that you've heard this clip. Senator, what is your take, and what can you tell us from Washington, D.C. that you know about these drones?
Well, I agree with President Trump. There's no doubt they know what's going on, but they're not in a position, they're not willing to explain it to us. And if you think what's worse about all of this, that's that the Biden-Harris administration has basically systematically destroyed Americans' trust in the government. And certainly you think about their behavior when the Chinese spy balloon flew over America. You know, it flew over sensitive U.S. military sites. It was bouncing around over places it should never have been, and the Biden administration was trying to tell us that it was just checking the weather. Come on. How many times did the Biden administration try to tell us that the border is secure? We know with our own eyes that this isn't true. If you think about it, time after time after time, the Biden and Harris administration has undercut America's confidence in the authorities here. And just one more example here with this drone situation. I don't know what the specific circumstances are, but it looks to me like a program out of control. And this administration is either too embarrassed or too ill-informed to be able to report to us in a more transparent fashion. That will come to an end January 20th. January 20th can't come soon enough.
Is there any concern on your part or on the part of your fellow senators or even over in the House of Representatives that it seems to me that folks like you, Senator Hagerty, would like to share more, not classified information, not confidential. I mean, I understand that there are certain things that go on that perhaps we don't need to know because that would by nature telegraph that to our enemies and to those that don't need to know. I get all of that. But is there no one in the halls of Congress that has been told or informed or briefed as to what the American government does truly know?
Well, I tell you, in the halls of Congress, people are furious, and that's a bipartisan comment, Matt. They're furious on both sides of the aisle. This is just the Biden administration telling us to talk to the hand. You put, the national security press secretary out on the street saying, "Well, we know it's not foreign, we know it's not adversarial, but we don't know what it is." Well, it can't be both.
Right? Exactly.
It can't be both, right? So it's just, don't believe your lying eyes yet again from the Biden administration. And I think this is one of the reasons the American public are so fed up with these guys and why we got such a resounding victory on November the 5th.
Well, and hopefully a lot of these issues will be resolved sooner rather than later. And hopefully they are resolved without any further fear or consternation on the part of the American people. One final question on this front, because it has, to me at least, seemed a more plausible theory than some of the others that I've heard. And have you heard the theory that perhaps we had some sort of mishap with nuclear material and that is a possibility as to why the government's being so secretive and attempting to get that back? Have you heard that at least as a rumor? And what, if anything, can you say about it if so?
I have not heard that as a rumor, Matt. This is the first I've heard of that.
Okay.
So I haven't heard anything, frankly, that is the least bit plausible. So again, we're just in a position of waiting and seeing. But I think the heat that's coming on this administration from the Congress, from both the House and the Senate, is continuing to mount. I don't see how they can hold back much longer without being more transparent with the American people. Again, they've just destroyed their credibility. This administration has destroyed the credibility with the American public.
Senator Bill Hagerty, our guest this afternoon, Libertarian Lunch, Matt Murphy Show. Senator, you and I have talked quite a bit. I listen and watch you on a variety of different programs, including Fox Business. I know what a physical conservative you are. Talk to me about the concept of yet another continuing resolution and why we should swallow hard as an American people and accept this, particularly considering that we have an administration that's coming in that seems to be laser focused on cutting wasteful government spending.
Well, that's one one aspect that I think our listeners should be pleased with, and that's the fact that this continues only until March, but it does continue until March. That gives the Trump administration a chance to come in and figure out and negotiate the balance of the year, as opposed to leaving it to Chuck Schumer and the Biden administration, which they would love to have wrapped it all up with some massive omnibus bill and pass that this week. We weren't going to let them do that. And so we wanted to give President Trump's team an opportunity to get their hands on the budget. And so that's why we're going to move this into mid-March. That'll give President Trump's team a chance to get on the ground, and we'll have a much better work product to finish the year out. That's my expectation.
I mean, I think I asked for the people of the state of Tennessee just to get Bill's opinion on. I mean, are you happy about this? I mean, I understand that it may be necessary. I think all of us kind of recognize perhaps the necessity to get to a second Trump administration, but it can't make you happy, Senator.
No, you're exactly right about that, Matt. Chuck Schumer has had the appropriation work product since this past summer.
Oh,
we pushed our bills through the Appropriations Committee. He will not bring them to the floor. He likes to precipitate this sort of crisis. Here we are, a government shutdown right before Christmas. This is what he lives for, I presume, to create these sorts of crises so he can, try to force members of both sides to vote for things they otherwise would never vote for. And so that's what we're looking at. This continuing resolution, in my view, is just another example of legislative malpractice. That's why I cannot wait until we change hands and change gavels in the United States Senate, and I can't wait till we get a responsible president back in the executive branch.
Senator, it's our first opportunity to speak since I've heard your name quite a bit floated as a possibility as a cabinet appointment. It doesn't look like one was quite the right fit for you. Can you give us an insight? I'm not asking for any private conversations, but did you have conversations about the possibility of serving the president in a different way?
Certainly. I've served the president in a different way.
That's right. Japan.
Sure. I served in his administration when I was U.S. ambassador to Japan. That's the third largest economy in the world, one of our most important diplomatic posts. He and I talk on a regular basis. We talked about this and a variety of things in terms of where I could be most helpful. My view is I want to represent the people of Tennessee. I want to do what's most constructive and helpful for America. And right now I'm working my heart out to make sure that he gets all of his nominees confirmed.
Who are you most excited about? Is there one or two? And do you have any consternation or concern about any of the nominees that you've seen so far?
Well, I've been spending a tremendous amount of time with Pete Hegseth, who is a fellow Tennessean now,
right.
One of my constituents. And Pete has actually been working out of my office the weeks that he's been up here meeting with all the senators. His momentum is very positive, and I've been happy to be a constructive player in that part. I think if you look at the current leadership at the Pentagon, Lloyd Austin has been just a complete disgrace, overseeing our withdrawal from Afghanistan, not holding a single person to account for that. They've got the Pentagon now more focused on pronouns than they do on lethality. Pete's ready to get back to business over there. And if you look at the recruitment and the retention crisis that's undergoing at the Pentagon right now, a leader like Pete, who's actually been a warrior, is inspiring. Pete shared with me some of the messages that he's had from some of his friends who were going to retire. They're saying, now that you're coming in, we're not. We're going to stay in. I think Pete's going to be an inspiration to help us recruit. We've got a huge deficit right now, a huge shortfall in the manpower there, and I'm delighted to see Pete come in and be an inspirational leader. It's interesting that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle forget the fact that Pete went to both Princeton and Harvard. He's a brilliant young man. I say young, he's younger than me, but he's going to be a great leader, an inspirational leader, and it's been my privilege to help introduce him to my colleagues here, and the momentum is definitely moving Pete's way. We've got a lot of other candidates here to talk about. We could spend the whole hour.
I know, and I know your time is probably limited too, Senator. And but I do want to ask you about one other particular candidate because a lot of attention on RFK to shake up health and human services. I mean, there's a lot of good to say about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And one thing I will lead with and get your response on is, some of our friends, quote unquote, on the political left are characterizing him as anti-vax. It's not true, but he does question why we have made this move in the manner that we have over the last 30 or 40 years to so many, particularly childhood vaccination. I think it's very important to continue to question the science. That's what science is all about. I'm as excited as can be about RFK in this role. How about you?
Well, Matt, you're saying it exactly right. Science is not fixed. It's not certain. The Earth was flat. until it wasn't. You remember that?
That's right.
This is entirely appropriate that we be constantly questioning the science, and that you bring in a leader that's asking very basic questions. I mean, why is it that America, the most wealthy country in the world, is also one of the least healthy in the world? And on the campaign trail, I could see the energy. A lot of young moms out campaigning on making America healthy again, asking the questions that we all should be asking in terms of why is chronic disease, going up here in America? Why are we suffering the way we are? And are there things and issues that we could address that would turn that around? That's what he's asking about, and he's being characterized as some type, some sort of fringe player here. But I think he's asking some very important questions. I've known him for some time. He's coming to meet me again this week in an official capacity, but I look forward to our conversations, and I think he's asking some very pertinent questions for the American public. And I think President Trump has been, incredibly wise as he looks at the entirety of this government. He's going to disrupt it. He's going to shake it up, and he's going to find a new approach. And I think RFK just underscores that.
Well, we're obviously very excited about the confirmation process and the fact that the president seems determined to hit the ground running with the advice and consent of the United States Senate. One final question on a different front. Tom Homan has been very forward-facing since he was announced as the quote-unquote border czar under the new incoming Trump administration, and he has gotten a lot of pushback from mayors in Denver and Chicago and in other areas around the country, these places that consider themselves to be quote-unquote sanctuary communities or sanctuary areas. I obviously believe, as you do, Senator, that the federal government only serves as the Constitution directs it to serve. But this is clearly a federal issue and a federal directive to protect us from foreign invasion. What's your message to these mayors and communities that seem to resist following the rule of law under the incoming Trump administration?
Well, my message to them, Matt, is they need to buckle up, because President Trump is dead serious about this. Tom Homan is too. We've never been under as great a public security threat as we are right now. All you have to do is listen to what the outgoing FBI director has been saying. This policy by the Democrats to collapse our southern border, and if you think about the sanctuary cities, these sanctuary cities are erected in blue states that otherwise have been losing population. You think about where the biggest sanctuary cities are located: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York. These are all states that are losing citizens, and they're backfilling those citizens with non-citizens who then can be counted for the purposes of allocating electoral votes in congressional districts. We've talked about this before, Matt. It's wrong. The American people know that it's wrong, but this is why they're doing it. It's a backfill strategy that they're using with these sanctuary cities, and it needs to come to an end.
Senator Bill Hagerty, always a pleasure, and we appreciate your time today, and we'll do it again very soon. Take care, and I don't think I'll talk to you before, so you and your family have a wonderful and Merry Christmas, Bill.
Thank you, Matt. Merry Christmas to you and all of our listeners today. Thanks so much.
All right, take care. There's Senator Bill Hagerty joining us for a good segment.